Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system. 90490766163 is not available.
Uh-oh. Hello? Oh, I think, was I on mute? Oh, okay. Apologies, everyone. Again, just to kind of reiterate, again, I'm Maurice Marek, Community Development Director for AAEA. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. We love to definitely give a shout out to our sponsors for today, Truist Bank, TD Bank, United Way, and also Volusia County Economic Development. Today, we have a great speaker by the name of JJ Conway, who's here to now present to us about getting out of debt, right? Getting out of that mud or that thick of things into being able to breathe and live a rewarding life, right? With our finances planned out. So again, who is JJ Conway? Well, JJ Conway is a retired lieutenant colonel and also coined as the first Black physicist in the United States Air Force. Despite being told, right, in the Air Force that Blacks can't do physics, right, she's had that power and grit to push through, right, and achieve unknown feats, right? She's also served 23 years and founded and chaired the Nuclear Threats Community of Interest, one of our nation's top technical bodies comprised of 17 different agencies. Although science will always be her first love, JJ became a financial planner after returning from a 6-month military trip to discover her house was sold, divorce papers, and over $845,000 in debt. Wow. After adapting to this life as a military single mom, JJ learned how to make money and how to make money work for her very quickly, yet ethically. She now teaches others the same personal growth and financial management skills that allow her to dump that debt and begin building wealth. She also mirrors these principles when working with businesses to improve processes, people, and profit. So everyone, please, please, please welcome JJ Conway.
Hello, everyone. It's such an honor to be here today. I'm very excited to be here with AAEA. I wish there was an organization that had been around like this when, and probably was. I wish I'd have known about an organization like this when I first started my very first business in 2001, Precious and Pleasant Boutique, and my Jasper web hosting and design company. So you can say I've always been entrepreneurial. I found that being an entrepreneur has helped me create a life of freedom and joy, even when I didn't have a lot of money. Because in between the beginning of that career and that beautiful intro that Maurice read and the end today, where I am basically a retired stay-at-home mom who works when I feel like it, there's what I like to call the messy middle. And in that messy middle was a divorce that left me with $800,000 of debt. And if you look back on my Facebook from 2009, when some of us old folks first discovered Facebook, you would be surprised that I was in so much debt, because I learned how to live an abundant life no matter what money I had in the bank. And so today, what we're going to cover, we're not going to talk about the nuts and bolts of budgeting, although that's very important. And I'm not gonna poke anybody in the eye today for not spending less than what they make and investing the rest, although that is the key to wealth building. But what I'm gonna do today is help you and as well as help myself, because we're all in this together and we're always climbing, to have a mindset that attracts wealth and repels negativity so that the money can flow in our businesses, in our pocketbooks, and to the causes that we love. Does that sound good today? That's what we're going to do today. Let me go ahead and call up my slides real quick. If you don't already have the handout that I sent in for this, it's super, super easy. I promise, Maurice, that nothing that I did today was going to be rocket science. These are time-tested success strategies that anybody can implement if they decide that they want more out of life and out of their business. And so let me show you the chart that we're going to work at today. You just draw a circle in the middle of your page and then divide the rest of it off into fours. Okay, so that's what we're going to be working with today. If you don't have the handout, Or if you're like me, you're not even big fan of PowerPoint slides. You just like to talk and have a conversation. And that's what we're going to be doing today, is we're going to be having a conversation about money. So let's talk a little bit about money. All right. Before I talk about money, let me talk about me. I guess I don't need to. Maurice already did. Let me skip past that one. But one of the reasons I'm so passionate about money is that when I went through my struggles and trials, I found out that there weren't a whole lot of programs or assistant things to help someone like me. And even worse, I found that the establishment seemed to really want someone like me to fail. I wasn't supposed to succeed. And here I was being put in my place. And so I had to figure out what to do. And I'm very thankful for figuring out how to move forward. Now, you might have heard me say I started my first little business in 2000 and 2001, Jasper Web Host and Precious and Pleasant Boutique. So you might think I'm not a stranger to entrepreneurship. But one of the things I didn't have is I didn't have a business that would help me address the issues of struggling to be a woman of color while pulling myself out of that debt and providing a great home for my family. And the number one reason I didn't have what I needed is because I did not have a business. And there's one thing you gotta have in order for it to be a business. Otherwise, the IRS says you've just got a hobby. And that number one thing you need, and it's going to go in the center circle of your handout if you've got one, or if you just draw one on your page, is in order to have a business, you got to have a profit. And in order to have a profit, you got to have sales. Sales are the lifeblood of every business. Well, I had a good, maybe 17 different businesses, 16 different businesses before I found the one that stuck. And in most of those, they were businesses on paper. Now, look, I at least, look, after my first one, I at least knew to go get me an LLC and open up a bank account and not mix my funds together. I at least knew that much. And I at least knew that there were certain deductions you could take, but I don't know if my early CPAs were just creative financing or whatever they were doing. But the bottom line is, if I wasn't making profits, even the deductions don't go that far. And so we have to have sales. But whether you're starting out in business or, like most likely most of us on the line today, you've been in business for a while, sales can slump. It happens at any time in our business. And even if we have sales, those sales can be ineffective. So what we want to talk about today is what can be wrong with our sales. All right. And so the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to look at the up arrow here because I'm not going to spend much time talking on this. The first thing that could be wrong with my sales is, well, I could have too much. I could have too many sales. And you think, well, come on, JJ. I know you don't do physics anymore. You've kind of gotten a little older and you don't do all that complex stuff anymore. But I think sales are really key to having a business. So why would too many sales be a problem? Well, one thing I learned the hard way is if you get too many sales and you can't fulfill orders, it can sap the life right out of your business. But we're not going to talk about that today because that's not the number one problem facing most of the entrepreneurs that come to me as a financial planner. All right. What most of the entrepreneurs that come to me as a financial planner are struggling with is they just don't have enough sales. Okay. So on one hand, you have too many and you could have trouble fulfilling. You could have trouble making good on your promises. You could have trouble delivering the service, delivering the goods, delivering on your promises. On the other hand, you could be having some sales that are ineffective, which we'll talk about, or you could have some sales that are not profitable, which we'll talk about. So you could have sales that are a dollar figure, but perhaps it wasn't profitable. So a lot of us, how many of us, no, don't raise your hands, don't raise your hands, don't drop it in the chat. No. Here, if you know somebody, let's do it that way, right? That way we can all participate and not be embarrassed. If you know somebody, you got a friend of a friend, I'll be honest, I've done it, who celebrates, oh, I made $5,000 this month. I made $5,000 of sales this month. Ooh, I'm rocking and rolling, but I actually spent $6,000 to get there. Some of us, we've been doing that for so long that we don't even realize where our business stands. And on the other hand, we could legit be making $5,000 that before the pandemic might have only cost us $1,000 to make. But now, because of increased costs and supply delays and other things like that, now that $5,000 cost us $4,000 to make, but we still got the commitments in our family, and we still have the commitments in our community, and we still have all the things that we plan to do every month with that $4,000 of profit. Okay, so we're going to talk about ineffective sales today. All right, and as you might have guessed, as you might have guessed from the handout, I like acronyms. Okay, so today we're going to talk about igniting the fire. F-I-R-E is an acronym that we are going to work with today. And so what we're going to do through this is we're going to ignite the fire in your business finances. So whether you have a business that isn't generating funds, whether you have a business that your finances drawn up, or whether you have a business that like many military people, you started off in business, but then you use your retirement or some other savings or some other funds to supplement the business. So you didn't have a real clear vision until things finally came to a head and you had no choice. Whatever it is, we're going to uncover it today. And in just one night, you are going to have a whole new outlook on your business that will allow you to attract more sales starting tonight, to allow you to attract more opportunities starting tonight, allow you to attract more openness starting tonight, and not only attract all kinds of goodness into your business life, but also, hon, we're going to learn how to repel all the negativity. Oh, doesn't that sound like fun tonight? All right. Okay. So let's go ahead and start with F. F in the FIRE stands for fascination. Now, this is a customer outlook. Okay. So I've got my fascination. What makes customers fascinated with what I'm doing? Well, you might say, well, JJ, there's a million financial planners out there. Why would anybody come to you? Because I'm amazing. Can't you tell? Right? Like, that's why someone would come to me. They are fascinated with the story. They're fascinated with the personality. I'm not like every other financial planner that wants to poke them in the eye and make them feel like they're nothing, because I know that everybody is amazing. We just have to get people from one situation to the next, right? And when y'all are all rich and famous, don't you forget that you had my seminar. But this is a customer facing facet of our business, fascination. Okay. And unfortunately for us, a lot of us, if we've been in business 5 to 7 to 10 to 12 years, a lot of us have offerings that are tired. The product might be tired. The service might be tired. Our sales methods might be tired. Okay. Now it could be that we've let go of some things. We won't talk about that in a second, but this is something that happens very often because the market is always changing. And not only is the market changing, but I don't know about you, but when I sat in those county business classes, like how to start a business in this county, and they walked me through connecting with the Small Business Administration and how to get a mentor through SCORE, they didn't sit me down and say, you need to calculate the business cycle for your business, because every business has a cycle, up and down and up and down. There's certain times a year, everybody cancels their financial planning packages. We're coming up on one of those times because everybody wants to have a good Christmas. And round about November, everybody wants to redo their house so they can have a nice Thanksgiving to show off to their families. Come on, y'all know you've done, I know we've all done this, right? And then January, February, everybody wants a big TV to watch the big game. And don't let there be a good fight coming on. Oh, I know I'm going to lose some clients over a fight, y'all. They're going to drop me and they're going to come back the month after because they're going to have the big blowout party, right? Every business has a cycle. If you're in hair, your business has a cycle. If you're in roofing, if you're in flooring, your business has a cycle. If you're in flooring, you don't have any business in January and February. And it's really easy to get discouraged. And it's really easy to make decisions based on a temporary position that actually affect your business long-term strategic. And since some of us have done that and it compounds every time, we need to take a step back, ignite the fire in our business by looking and seeing what about our business is tired. And so I'll give you an example from my life. I started playing around with the internet when it first came out. Yeah, I'm that old. There was no internet when I was a kid. I know I look younger, but hey, you know what? I got some experience under all that dye. There's a generation of websites and computers where you could really do everything yourself. Nowadays, everything is so complicated and technical, and people want dynamic. And the more dynamic your website, the more you got to have security. And I quickly realized I'm a military that at that time single mom. I was like, this is not going to work for me. I cannot keep up with the pace of society, and I cannot keep up with the pace of threats. I sold that business and I moved on to something else that was more exciting and more accessible to me personally. Doesn't mean anything was wrong with that business. Doesn't mean anything was wrong with me getting in that business. Are you kidding? I made good money with that business. Ain't nobody, Black women were building websites and hosting websites for people. Oh, I made some money in that business, and I gave my people a good deal. They didn't get taken for a ride with my business. And so not only was I doing a business that was a blessing to me, but it was a blessing to the community. In my personal opinion, that's the best kind of business, right? So that was a wonderful, wonderful business when it was. But I did not have the throughput, the bandwidth, the capacity, whatever name you like. I did not have the ability to carry it forward. And some of us, if we're in a business slump and we feel like the fire is gone, we feel like the excitement is gone, it might not be that we're no good for business. It might not be that we're too old for business. It might not be that we're too outdated, or that we just don't have the strength we used to have. It might be that it's time to refresh the business and find something that meets the consumer. Something that meets the consumer in today's day and age, and something that meets the consumer at a price point they're willing to pay. And so the last time I ran into some techie types, yes, there are some techie types in Silicon Valley making 7 figures, y'all. I ain't even gonna lie about that. But most of the people who were doing what I did back when it was big business, they're barely scraping together on 30,000 a year. All right. So the gig economy is kind of level the playing field, and our products and services might be tired. Our sales methods might be tired too. And I don't mean tired in that some of the old-fashioned things don't work, because I think that they do. I think that some of them, and you're going to hear about that in my next little section here, but sometimes we're just tired of them. We're tired of making those phone calls. We're tired of doing this, and we're tired of doing that. And then we try to jump on this next thing, and then we fail to build relationships, or we have, I mean, y'all, look, I got it against being military and then being in the finance. If there's anybody that struggles with building relationships, it's the poster child right here. But one thing that I have learned is that there's always something new coming down the pike that grabs the consumer. And if we want to market to the consumer, we may not agree with some of the things, some of the ways and the methods, but if we want to meet people where they are, we got to do what John Maxwell says, is put the cookies on the bottom shelf. Like, I couldn't stand the new websites when they came out with the big cover art and one little click here button. I'm like, I'm not clicking there to sign up for your list. I don't even know what you got to offer me. Well, guess what I have found since I changed my website? I made it easier for people to know, like, and trust me, who didn't know, like, and trust me before they clicked here. All right. So sometimes we got to stop being so tired in our product, in our services, but other times we have to look at the change. We have to look at the change in our business. Sometimes things have changed and we didn't even realize it. And it just kind of sneaks up on us. And the next thing we know, things aren't working. The profit's not coming. We're not attracting the big clients anymore. We're not doing the things that we thought we would be doing by now. We had the 5-year plan and now it's year 4. And where's the sales? Where's the contracts? Where's the mansion? All right. So we got to look and see where is the part of my business that fascinates the client, the customer. And sometimes we might find, if we really dig back into our history, we might find that we have dropped the things that were working. I know I made that change back when I first started my little mailing list 8 years ago, when we when I took financial planning from being volunteer to business. I had maybe 100 people on my list, and I would pray for every one of them every Sunday. And I did that to maybe about 400 people, which is a lot of prayers, y'all. And after a while, I was like, I can't keep doing this. You know, now we have exponential growth. So it's kind of a blanket, Lord bless everybody on this list. But one thing I stopped doing along with the prayers and stopped sending out the Sunday, hey, I prayed for you today. The other thing that I stopped doing is I had stopped for a while doing the personal relationship stuff. I had stopped sharing stories about my kids, and I had stopped sharing about what's working and not working. And those were the real and relatable things that drew people to me. And so sometimes we can look at our business and decide, okay, this was working and that was working, and somewhere along the line I dropped this and I dropped that. Another thing that we might need to do in our business is to update our big why. We might start off with a particular goal. When I started my business, I needed to get out of all this debt. Y'all, I did not want to be in debt forever. And I wanted to have a better life. I worked too hard to get where I was to have this kind of a setback. And so for me, that was my big why originally. My big why, I was never going to sleep in another moldy basement apartment. I was never going to sleep in another Walmart parking lot unless I chose to. And me and my kids, we were not going to make meals out of freebies from Sam's Club and other places. That was not going to be my life ever again. That was my never again moment. But at a point came where we achieved financial stability. And then I had to shift from that moment that was about first stabilizing myself and then stabilizing my family. And I had to shift to an even bigger why that was about stabilizing my community. And so sometimes we need to update it. Sometimes we're just entering into a new season. No, again, don't y'all raise hands or drop. That's me in the chat. I drop. That's my friend. But you know, so I found a curious thing. As me and my friends enter into this new age and maturity, we seem to all have pill boxes, and we all seem to have this, and we all seem to need a nap, and we all seem to need all these things. And it's really easy for us to think like, oh, well, you know, I'm entering into this new season of me and self-care, and I'm entering into this new thing where I'm not entering into this new thing that's never been heard before. It's called getting older and wiser. And so we have to understand that there are seasons of life and there are seasons of business. And we can't beat ourselves up or have negative energy over a season of business. And many of us, and I don't know who I'm talking to today because I can't tell who all is watching, especially who's going to watch it after the fact. But many of us, we have been dogging ourselves out, beating ourselves up over something that is a natural part of life and business. And so I encourage you to reignite the passion and the fire for your business through analyzing what it is your customer needs from you. I also encourage you to look at what you need from you. And that's where the I comes in with inspiration. With inspiration, where fascination was customer focused. How do I get people to want more of what I have to offer and pay a price that makes it worth my time to offer it to them? This is about inspiration. This is about me. See, I talk about big why on the last slide, but that's about the customer facing big why. What is it about what I'm doing that draws the kind of people that I want to work with? Okay, this is internal. This is about you and you. This is a you and you deal. So how can you stay focused? How can you stay excited? And if you're like me and you just got a lot of energy anyway, how can you make sure that you're putting your energy where it needs to be? I'm the queen of exhausting myself and getting nowhere. Anybody else relate to that today? Do a million things, get a lot of little things done, but at the end of the day, you didn't get the big thing done that needs to be done. Well, I have found that living into a purpose allows me to make decisions that will benefit me to help cut through all that creep and be inspired again in my business, to delegate out to somebody else what I'm not good at, to let go of those things that I either can't delegate out or don't want to. Okay. And so this is about staying cutting edge, about staying excited, about continuing to stoke the fires, continuing to feed ourselves with mentoring and personal growth methods, and being connected with people who understand the trends. You know, there were a lot of experts out there who knew that the pandemic was coming. In fact, part of my doctoral research, I was so shocked to read these books on leadership, and they all outlined the case study of the pandemic down to the reaction of our governments and how ill prepared everybody was to handle it. It was eye-opening to me to know that there were people who understood that this was coming. They were advocating for leadership to do something about it. And when leadership didn't respond the way they thought state and government and federal government leadership should, they took it upon themselves to warn themselves and their tribes. Well, I didn't necessarily get on that boat, but let me tell you what I did do. I made it my mission and one of my goals to get myself connected to people who had an idea of what is coming down the pike, getting connected to mentors who can speak into our businesses. So for example, I'm going to give you two quick things because we still have a couple more. We have two more letters to cover, and then I want to give you time for questions. But two quick things that are coming down the pike as automation becomes more established. You're going to find less and less of your trucking and other industrial jobs. We've already seen this decline in some sectors, but now that we see it, now that it's being reported in some of these gobbledygook economic magazines that nobody ever wants to read, being connected to someone that can say, hey, you coaches and planners, you have services to offer. Make sure you're putting together something for truck drivers who are going to find, a lot of them are going to find themselves out of a job. In fact, I think they're projecting about 30% of trucking jobs to be eradicated in about 5 to 7 years. So whether that happens on that timeline or not, that's what they're working towards. Another trend that you probably have seen in your life, but you may not have been aware of, is dynamic pricing. Dynamic pricing is when I go on Amazon and Maurice goes on Amazon and he gets shown one price for something and I get shown another price for something. It's dynamic pricing. It takes our habits and our considerations into account, and then it sends us the product that it thinks we will be most likely to buy. People with a luxurious and fine taste, they generally don't want the lower priced items. So really, Amazon's doing you a favor by giving you the higher price things, right? It's doing you a favor and helping you weed out the things you didn't want to see anyway. At least that's what these companies say. From a company standpoint, if I can charge you more money for the same thing, I'm gonna do that all day long. And I'm not gonna feel bad about it anyway, because you're gonna pay somebody, you might as well pay me. But from a customer advocate side, somebody who helps people get out of debt and helps people build wealth, well, I'm gonna need you to understand that this happens so that you can make sure you keep more of your money in your pocket. Okay, so these are two trends that we want to understand. Well, I would not have known about these trends if I wasn't connected in a personal growth capacity with mentors who educated me about these trends. And that leads me to the next letter, R, in our FIRE, ignite the fire. And that is R, for relationships. When we find that our businesses are hitting the slump, when we find that our businesses are hitting a slump, one of the things that we have to remember is that it's not always that we're doing something wrong. It's not always that the tide has changed. Sometimes it's, no kidding, the energy of the people that we're around. And so one thing that makes me know that even though there might be this hiccup over here and that hiccup over there, when I look in my phone, there are a lot more high net worth people in this phone today than there were 5 years ago. And there's a saying by Jim Rohn that says, show me the 5 closest people that you spend the most time with, and I will show you what your future will be. And so I think I butchered his quote. Principle still stands. If the 5 people you spend the most time with ain't going nowhere, you're not going anywhere. And you might be doing something now, but in 5 years, that nowhere will play out in ways unforeseen unless you take action now to nurture the proper relationships. That doesn't mean you kick your uncle to the curb. That doesn't mean anything like that, but it means being cognizant of who's around me and who's pouring energy into my life. I know I talk a mile a minute, but I'm going to slow down on this point because this is really important about the energy in our lives. When I was $800,000 in debt, most of the fun that I had and posted about on Facebook wasn't because I could afford to buy the tickets. It's because I was able to provide some level of value to whoever hosted the event, or I was able to provide some kind of video, or videos weren't as big back then, but some kind of graphics, or I would get people to come in. I would do something to be of value to the venue, and I would be compensated for that non-monetary value with the experience that I saw. It was the energy. When I walked around in the, oh my goodness, this life is miserable. I hate my life and I hate myself, which is very, very reasonable to feel. When somebody leaves you for somebody half your age and then leaves you with 800 and something $1,000 a day, very normal, very natural way to feel for a little while, right? But if I had allowed myself to continue in that energy, I would have repelled the people that could open doors for me. I would have repelled the people who could pour into me without charging me, because I don't have no money to pay people. So our energy is very, very important to obtaining the life and the business that we want. And part of how we secure our energy is through the relationships that feed energy, as opposed to the relationships that suck out all the energy. Okay. And so one of the things that we want to remember is we want to look at how we can grow in our influence and in our product lines without expanding more money. Yes, there's a time to buy ads. Yes, there's a time to do this and that, but we are in economically uncertain times right now. And so we don't want to spend more than we need to get the same effect. And so one of the quickest, fastest ways for you to expand your audience is to actually be a guest on someone else's podcast, someone else's vlog, someone else, be a contributor to someone else's blog. This is one of the fastest ways. And if you have those things yourself in your business, bringing them into your space. Why does this work? Because now guess what they're going to do? They're exposing you to all of their audience. And so, yes, some of your audience may resonate with them, but a part of their audience that loves and is fascinated by what you're doing will come to you. Another thing that I like to do whenever I feel like I'm in a slump, and something that has been very effective with my clients over the last couple of years, especially during the pandemic, is relationship rings. Now, I'm not talking about call somebody up that you haven't talked to in 10 years and say, hey, I was just thinking about you, want to buy into my business opportunity. I got a lot of those calls through the pandemic. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm actually talking about not asking anybody for any monetary, any product support or any service purchases. I'm asking to make these rings, we call them relationship rings. Who's in my family that knows a thing or two about what I'm struggling with? All right, maybe your family's not a good choice. I know some of us have families that you don't want to bring up, but who's in my inner circle? Who's in my family? Who's in my church? Who's in my civic groups? Who's in my alumni groups? Who's in AAEA? Have we utilized all of the advantages and all of the talent that's in the affinity groups with which we're associated? Who is it that has experience in these different areas in my business, and who can show me how to take it to the next level, and who can I bring in to mentor? One of the surprising things that you might find that I highly, highly, highly recommend if you're my age or older, and that is finding someone to mentor you who's a lot younger than you. And you say, well, what can these young whippersnappers teach me? Well, it turns out they can teach us a lot of things about business, because even though Gen X right now, even though boomers right now are the highest spending category and Gen X are close behind them and soon to take over, the bottom line is the younger people have more disposable income than they know what to do with, and they're going to waste their money if something, oh, I'm not saying that right. That's not what I want to say. Younger people do things with money that older people tend to think is a waste. That's how I want to say it, okay? But when you start to uncover each generation and you understand what's important to them, then you understand why the boomer or the traditionalist or the builder wants to talk in all these long-winded stories about their grandchildren, right? And then you understand why the young person really wants transformative experiences and they're willing to attack life like a la carte. I don't have to take all the package you offer because I can get a little over here and a little over there. And each generation has their own concerns and cares and frustrations and events that have shaped them. And so if you, like I did for a while, have a really difficult time really connecting with people 2 generations above you or 2 generations below you, it's important to be mentored in those spaces if those spaces are relevant to the product or service that you are offering. And that's one of the reasons why I love our generational diversity training that we have. And the final thing that I want to talk about in relationship, and I don't know if y'all have heard of this book, it's kind of an old book, but it's Who Moved My Cheese? And it's basically a business allegory of you've got 2 mice running through a maze and they get to the cheese, and every day the cheese is there, and every day the cheese is there. Well, one day the cheese is not there. And one of the mice, he decides or she decides, I don't think it's gender specific, decides to go walking around the maze and try to find out if there's more cheese elsewhere. The other cheese keeps showing, the other mouse keeps showing up to the same time, same place every day, hoping that that cheese will be back because that's what's been programmed into them. And so I find it to be a very powerful player in my life that sometimes the cheese has moved. It's not that I've done anything wrong in my business. It's not that I've made any mistakes. I mean, wait a second. Yes, I have made mistakes. And yes, I've done a lot of things wrong. But sometimes life just happens. And it's through our relationships that we can really be equipped and adapt. I remember a restaurant provider, hotel provider who I was stuck in line. She was doing 200 gift cards, y'all, and I was in a rush. Like I had a limited lunch break while I was still active duty, and look, you tying up my time now. Now we have some issues. But she was doing 200 gift cards for her hourly employees that she had to let go because of this pandemic. And so she was explaining to me while the Walmart lady is coding 200 cards. Now I'd already been to 4 lanes, so I just decided to accept that this was where I needed to be at that time and place. She starts talking about how they've been through this before in the hospitality industry with 9/11. And she started telling me all the strategies that successful hotel managers use in order to weather these kinds of storms. And I was like, you would make an excellent consult for other hotels outside of the country. Outside of the county. And so in her play, as things played out, this hotel went out of business, that hotel went out of business. But you know what happened with her 4 hotels? As they came out of the pandemic, they started doing renovations. So somebody knew what they were doing and they knew how to weather the storm. And if I'd have never had that relationship, even if it was just for a minute in the Walmart line, I would have never learned how to weather that storm and how to help my clients weather that storm. All right. The last letter we're going to talk about is excellence. And this is one of my calling cards. Excellence is my calling card. Motto of the Air Force is integrity, service, and excellence. Integrity first, service before self, and excellence in all we do. And I've always tried to be a person of excellence. But, sometimes I have found that in my business, and I'm sure you have found in your business, sometimes you are just tired, and sometimes you are just this, and sometimes you are just that. And so what I want to challenge everybody to do today, even if you are like me and you're like, yes, excellence is my calling card, I'd like you to evaluate a few questions. The first question would be, are you operating in excellence? And if you are trying to reignite the fire in your business, it could be that you are operating in perfection. Let me say that again, because I don't want the in to be combined with the perfection. It may be that you are operating in perfection, not excellence. And so you're expending a lot of energy that could be going towards other things that your business needs to be more profitable and more relatable. Another thing is follow-up. And I've admitted, so this is what I'm working on in 2022. And I've still got a couple more months, and we gonna win this battle, because the fortune really is in the follow-up. And in today's day and age, they say it takes at least 12 touches before somebody buys. But if you're anything like me, you don't want to be a bother. I mean, come on, you go to Sam's Club and you're walking down Sam's Club and somebody's trying to sell you electricity. And I'm like, I live 2 hours from here. This is the closest store to where I live, right? Or you're walking in the garden of Home Depot or Lowe's, and they are not my sponsors, but they just came to mind. You're walking in the garden section and somebody comes over and says, want to buy some kitchen cabinets? And I'm like, if I wanted to buy kitchen cabinets, I'd be in the kitchen section, right? So we don't want to be a bother, and we don't want to be a pain, because we don't like it when people do that to us. But the fortune is in the follow-up. And if we're not good with follow-up, it's important to invest in strategies that give excellent follow-up to our potential clients and to our existing clients. One thing I like to talk about when it comes to excellence is how we do some things is how we do everything. And this is really for my business owners that seem to have things all together at work. And you were like me when I was in the military. In the military, I was large and in charge. I was Lieutenant Colonel Conway, man. I was going to make, look, I don't have a military face. I don't have a military demeanor. So I needed that rank. I needed that rank. And once I got that rank, I was like, I'm in charge. You're going to do what I say, right? No, not really. But there were many times where I felt that elevation at work. But when I would go home and I would go to church and I would be at my kid's school, I felt this big. And things were not in balance. And it's really, really hard to have a 7 and 8 figure business if you don't have some foundational things in balance. And so while I was putting on a show, it was costing a lot of energy, because the things I was doing at work to play the role of Lieutenant Colonel Conway were energetically not aligned with who I was. I had to come up. I had to up level my life. I had to cut off some dead weight, and I had to get in touch with my priorities so that my life could be more aligned. And when we're igniting the fire in our business, it really is undergirded by our own personal excellence. And so I would encourage you today to do that self-exploration and be open to hearing how it looks to others. I had someone the other day say, oh, it looks like you started working out again. Oh, I was mad, y'all. Now I know I put on a little weight since I retired, and I've lost 20 of those 40 pounds since February, when I realized, we have the Zoom, so I didn't know how much weight I'd put on. But y'all, when that person said that, it almost made me crumble, because I'd been working out almost every day for a year and a half. And even though I'd put on some weight with injuries and other things and medications, it just hurt my heart to make them say that to the outside world, it looked like I was inconsistent. But it did look that way through my posting, through my fluctuations in weight. And then I began to analyze with the business. And ever since this, how you do it, something is how you do everything, and really looking at how he does to others. I have done this exercise with almost 100 clients, and every one of them have uncovered areas of their life where they thought they were being consistent and they weren't. So for example, thought I was being consistent posting a daily thought. Well, I was only being consistent posting a daily thought whenever I was going to the school. Go to the school, drop off the kiddo, come back home, or go walk, come back home, get to work, post the thing, and move on with my day. But when he wasn't in school, I wasn't posting. We had all these snow days last year, and to the outside world, it looked like I was inconsistent. So I'm going to encourage you to look for areas where you can improve your excellence. There's nothing wrong with taking a little time for self-reflection and reevaluation. That is how you reignite the fire in your business and keep that financial fire alive. Whether you qualify for any loans, whether you get any kind of grants or anything like that, these strategies that I've given you today will help you take your business to the next level. All right. That is my presentation for you today. If you have any questions, now would be a great time to drop them, but I've got my contact information right there on the slide. And you are welcome to reach out to me in any way.
Wow, that was man, a wealth of information. Love your energy, love your joy, right, that you just bring to the camera. So again, thank you so much for your time here. I do have 2 questions I want to ask here in regards to everything. And the first one, when we talk about mentorship, right? So could you just share with us just possibly either one or two scenarios or testimonials of just how has a mentor been influential in your life?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. One of the mentoring programs that I'm in is actually through the John Maxwell team. And if anybody wants information about that, reach out to me because you get the best price when you come in through somebody who's already there. It's not an MLM or anything, but every year I'm able to, every year, every day they have some kind of business building mentoring call where I can dial in and ask my questions. So for example, I had done several live to leads with the city of Shreveport. The new mayor came in and cleaned house and all my contacts were gone. And I was like, I don't know what to do now. I don't want to be associated with all the old guard. I got cleaned house, but I want to continue providing value because I felt like city officials were getting good value out of it. And it was a very win-win relationship for me. And so they walked me through, do this, do this, do this, do this, and you'll be able to get back into it. And so, you know, even today, even though I've moved away, I still have a Shreveport business and I'm on the mayor's commission for race and diversity. And I'm doing a lot of things in that community when I come into town because of those mentoring opportunities. Another mentoring opportunity that really served me well, and I'm not going to name the individual because I don't want to give them free business because we're not together anymore. But I found it was very poignant because during the pandemic, when the pandemic first hit, they were somebody who was in the know about world events and what actions were being considered and taking place. And so, whereas I don't have an example of that with my current set of mentors in that particular scheme, the people that I now surround myself with and that I've made relationships with through organizations like John Maxwell, or even organizations like AAEA, you know, different trade associations and different entrepreneurial associations that I've been in, surrounding myself with people who appear to be connected with other people who know what's going on. And so during the pandemic, my business was literally not just saved, but uplifted and thrived. And a lot of people had pandemic businesses. They started during the pandemic, but a lot of people who had pre-existing businesses folded because they didn't have that wise counsel in their life. And it really was the lady at Walmart who made me realize I needed to find somebody to like her, but for business. And that's exactly what I did.
Oh, that's major. Okay, so I have, and of course, there's a lot of questions I'd love to follow up with you on, but one that sticks out most to me is when you talk about the cycle of the business, right, and the seasons of a business, right, the seasons of our personal life, the seasons of our professional life. Could you just shed some light on that season of really planting that seed for a business, right? And how does that take? And when do you start to even really see that first sprout out of the dirt, right? Or can you just in any capacity?
Okay, well, I do want to qualify that I called myself having a business for a long do businesses for a long time before I realized if it's not profitable and you can't sell it, it's not a business. But for me, that there's the difference between having the idea and having it really be something that is a living, breathing entity, its own business, its own culture, its own person, if you will. And for me, what really made that difference was taking the realization that there are a lot of, okay, let me back up. I have a lot of talents. They're not always that great. You know, I have a lot of great ideas. And I do have a lot of really great ideas, but you know, for every great idea, I might have two that are just flops. And so, you know, I being an ideas person, I had to really learn how to filter the ideas. So whenever I tried this business or tried that business, and when it came to taking my financial volunteering that I was doing for almost 20 years before we made it a business, when it came to make it into a business, I had filtered everything else I wanted to do through a couple of things. One of those was I filtered it through my purpose. What is my purpose in life? What is it that I have been put here on earth to do? And a lot of us have never sat down and done the thought work to even determine what our purpose is, what our values are, and then what are the goals that align and help us achieve that purpose in light of those values. And so having done that work, this is what I want to do. Then it comes down to and there's a Japanese term for it. I really don't remember, but there's a Japanese term for this theory that I'm giving you today. But but I didn't know that at the time that I walked through this. Okay. But there is a term for it. But not only is it, what is it that I'm called to do? What is it that I'm good at doing? What is it that people are willing to pay me for? So when I have a nonprofit for military single moms, because I was one for a while. Well, that wasn't a very good business. And I was trying to do things with youth. And at that time I was not good with youth. So now I'm much better with youth. But up until then, I was not good with youth. And so those things were not good business models for me. And I had never in the past thought to filter through, what is it that I'm here to do? What have I been gifted and talented? What are my natural born talents? And then what are the things that have just kind of, the mantle has just fallen upon me, even though it wasn't something I've always been good at. All of a sudden, wow, I can flow in this capacity. And really putting all those things together and being open to sometimes exploring a business idea that may be not aligned with your personal values. Because for me, dealing with money was always a very negative thing. Yes, I was helping people get out of debt. And yes, I was in teaching classes on real estate investing and getting out of debt. But to take that and make an international business out of it. Whoa, wait, no, we're not trying to be filthy, stinking rich. I had to get filthy, stinking rich out of my vocabulary. And I remember when it hit me so hard. I was talking with somebody all week long at a particular conference. We were volunteering to get a great guy. Like if I wasn't single, I'd be with him probably. But I hipped my friends onto him. So we share the wealth here. But great guy. And so we had this wonderful time. And then I find out at the end of the conference that he was worth $500 million. And the first word out of my mouth was, but he's such a great guy. Like I couldn't put those two things together, and instantly, and I don't know, I'm not trying to preach here, but instantly what dropped into my spirit was, how are you ever going to be worth 500 million if you can't reconcile the fact that somebody that worth that much can be a great guy? And so those are the things that help me take an idea and actually become comfortable with the idea. And once I began to come comfortable with the idea, and when I began to really walk in the idea and really visualize the idea, I'm telling you, it's like help just dropped out of the sky. And it is something about making a commitment to your future. You know, when you make a commitment to your future, and especially if you're steeped in debt and you make a commitment that I'm not taking any more debt, it's like help and blessings and freeze. They fall out of the sky and they just plop into your lap, and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
look, now I've got something. I don't get all those freebies plopping in my lap anymore.
Yeah. Exactly. No, this is
Hope that helps.
Yeah, this is spot on. And I'm not sure for the Japanese, are you referring to the ikigai? Have you heard of that?
Yes, that's
Okay,
it.
all right, yeah. All right. I was like, I think this is what she's on. But so
Yeah.
for anyone watching, check that out. But no, this has been amazing. Great content, and you've definitely blessed us with some amazing information here. So even from the first part of the fascination, right? The big point I saw was the whole why piece, right? How do you redefine that over time? Not only personally, but for your family, and then how it leads into your community and that value you bring, right? But you also talk about purpose, right? Purpose is so important, right? It helps us move forward, understanding our core values and our values of, or I like to say our creed, right? We all have a personal creed, we have a creed for our family, and then what we truly want out of others, and surrounding ourselves with positive people, surrounding ourselves with a wealth of people, whether if it's monetary or this even a mindset of wisdom, right? But how do you put yourself in this standpoint of truly understanding how can you push forward? So excellence from start to finish. Thank you so much for your time. And we've just been blessed with a wealth of information. So for those of you who are watching this, again, don't forget to please hit the like button for us on Instagram, on Facebook, and also LinkedIn. But we have the contact information for JJ Conway, and she's also on the front part of this recording. So please tune into her. Please follow her. Please like everything she's doing. Again, thank you so much for joining us here at AAEA. And again, shout out again to our sponsors, Truist, United Way, TD Bank, and also Volusia County Economic Development. But this has been a blessing, and thank you guys. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Oh, man, this is awesome.